Pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito tum.
Hello, this is Chef Willie. Welcome to a classic modern reviews. King Kong! Kong Skull Island. What do they have in common? It starts off with one of my favorite movie monsters, second to Godzilla, from 1976, King Kong! Some of you were introduced to King Kong in this version as I was. A giant gorilla causing havoc. Sounded awesome and entertaining as a kid. It is easily the most popular out of all its adaptations, even though I couldn't understand why this was the most hated King Kong out of all the movies. So I went back to see it again with no interruptions, and now I can see why. This movie has more resemblance to this Godzilla than it does with the 1933 classic. How so? It has little to no charm from the original, some of the special effects don't hold up as well, the acting and dialogue is cartoony, and the characters we're supposed to root for are the ones we want to see getting squashed! Now for this to have many problems, it was a box office success that has now come across as a fan favorite by many. Listen, I know it's getting its own fan following out there, and I know most of you see it as underrated as it is for me Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Unfortunately, this is not one of those! Now keep in mind, don't take this too personal. This is all based on opinion that might not match with some of yours, so if you still enjoy it, enjoy it! Even if my opinion is right. So let's get into the story before I explain why this monkey puberty gone wrong turned into a step backwards into the evolutionary chain. It opens up with an expedition sailing on a mysterious island to search for oil, led by the evil greedy man Fred Wilson. Later, a paleontologist sneaks into the crew to see this mysterious island, played by a young Jeff Bridges. Suddenly, out of nowhere, pops out of a boat a young Jessica Lange, whose name is... You know what? Let her tell you her name. Let's see if you start to like her.
D-W-A-N, Dwan. That's my name. You know, like Dawn, except I switched 2 letters.
I already hate her. So Dwan survives from her own boat exploiting in the most idiotic way possible, which we'll get into in a moment. So they reach into the island to discover natives who later kidnap Dwan to be the sacrifice to their god named King Kong. But later falls in love with her, the crew tries to rescue her and capture the beast so they can take him to America and make a profit out of him. But later King Kong is set loose to find Dwan and have the famous battle on top of the building. Instead of taking place at the Empire State, it is now on the Twin Towers. I don't mind the modifications they made into the story, but here's where I got the change of heart. From the moment it began, this movie can be summed up in one word: convenient. How convenient it is for Jeff Bridges to sneak into the boat, who apparently is the only one who has any idea where they're heading, because clearly nobody in that boat would have brought someone with any island expertise. How convenient it is for Kong to do these atrocities and still be the hero only when the plot finds it, well, convenient. I know in the other movies he kills, but they never glorified it or made a big deal out of it. Here, he's pretty much getting cheered up by Mr. Environmental Man.
Dirty, rotten bastards!
Yeah, haha, get those dirty evil monsters, even though you murder hundreds of innocent lives early, but man is evil. How convenient it is for Dwan to be shoved into the movie because the original had a damsel in distress, so should we. And get a load of this. She walked out of her cruise ship, surviving the explosion because she didn't want to see a porno? Our female lead, ladies and gentlemen, our female lead is a hoe. Can we all agree out of this movie, she is the worst? Listen, Jessica, I know you were good on American Horror Story, and I know this was your movie debut, but this was terrible! Yeah, she's hot and all, but she's annoying! We went from a likable Ann Darrow to a stereotyped dumb blonde? She's self-centric and brags on how she's gonna be a movie star one day. She does nothing or contributes anything on the expedition, only to be the eye candy and show how happy and how much fun she's having. Take away her romance plot with the main lead and King Kong, she's completely pointless, and neither of them are good to begin with. The point for Kong to fall in love is for getting intrigued by her. Here, I don't get why he would have the hots for her. She's not charming or even interesting, and only comes out as a whiny prima donna.
You put me down!
As for Kong, boy is he creepy! I mean, for this supposed Beauty and the Beast story can be summed up by this line.
There is a girl out there who might be running for her life from some gigantic turned-on ape.
Our hero, guys, an ape with a huge boner for a white chick. How can anyone find this charming? I mean, great job on the technicians for making those facial expressions work, but whenever they're together, it's hilarious for how creepy it is! How am I supposed to root for this gigantic pervert? They even spelled it out that he wanted to rape her! Look at him, he's trying to get on base too and get on with it, I guess. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that was Donald Trump on that suit. I will say, whenever Kong is not trying to get his monkey jacked off, he does come along intimidating. I remember as a kid I would get scared whenever he made those angry faces. Also, the guy who did the Kong roars was Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime. Huh, no wonder they both sounded equally awesome. Until he makes those creepy faces. Ew, stop looking at me like that! As for this supposed mysterious island, it's really kind of boring. For an island that's inhabited by monsters, there's really not much of that. All we get is a duel with a snake, and it's pretty lame. Okay, that wasn't lame. The special effects were recognized by the Academy Awards, but now they look from decent to just not good. The puppetry and animatronics are still good enough to blend in or even make the guy on the ape suit still look convincingly gigantic. But other times, it looks 70s bad. Yeah, look how convincing she makes contact with that nose. Yeah, that doesn't look like a giant robot, does it? There's really no point to mention the villain, he's just a one-dimensional cartoon bad guy. They tried to jam in an environmental message in it. Unfortunately, I don't care this time because pedophile monkey on the loose! The ending still holds up as a very intense gory climax, but after seeing it again, I felt nothing for these two. Yeah, it is cold for me to say that, but here's the thing. You look at the scenes that are supposed to be emotional out of context, they're really good. Watch it in its entirety, it comes along forced. And I know I've gone too long rambling about these two, but since it's labeled as the modern Beauty and the Beast story, it is a big deal. We're supposed to join in with her pain after losing Kong, when a while ago she was begging to have a drink with the guy she spends on flirting, while there's a giant monkey set loose trying to get a blowjob from her. Either her character's an inept, or she doesn't care. I don't buy that she has any feelings for Kong other than guilt. It may have looked sad when I was a kid, but right now it is downright forced. She didn't earn my sympathy and was not worth dying for in the end. Well, at least he did better off in that other sequel of his. Never mind! Now, to be fair, there are some good things in this film, such as the music score, composed by John Barry, who did most of the James Bond music scores. It has a thunderous sound whenever it goes from a threatening tone, but also having a charming romantic tone. Well, whatever romance they tried! The cinematography is also a plus side from the first half, and they tried to have a message about man's greed, but it's just plain silly. At times it looks campy, some of the special effects don't look as good, the characters are either cartoons or annoying, and this Kong really needs psychiatric therapy! Now it has been growing as a fan cult mostly based on nostalgia. If this is your movie, if this is your favorite out of all the Kongs, good for you. Take it from someone who grew up loving this film as a kid. I'm not saying that it should be left forgotten, some things still hold up as entertaining. Even though I have a ton of issues with this King Kong, it is still watchable, but in a bad way. I give it a 5 out of 10 stars. So if you're still watching, what were your thoughts on the movie? Did you like it? Did you not like it? I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. You can leave your comments down below, like, subscribe, and if you still don't hate me yet, what would be some movies you'd like me to review later? Okay, so here's a quick update. I'm gonna be out of town for the whole next week, which means that my Kong review will be delayed for the next week, which, if I'm precise, it would be 2 weeks from now. But don't go anywhere. Still tune in, because when I get back, I'll be giving my thoughts on Kong Skull Island. So for now, that's it for today. Ciao.